Greetings, friends. Coming to you from my bed. Today is Sunday, November 1st, Dia de los Muertos. If you celebrate such things, I do. I am Hispanic and Latin American. My mother was from Chile. And although it's not necessarily a heavily Chilean tradition to celebrate, I know, in some of the villages rather than the large cities. I've hardly picked up the cards at all. I think I did a very simple reading for myself once the other day. I just haven't been in the right headspace for it. I've just been too depressed in a general sense. I've been trying really hard to reconnect with my intuition, and it's been tough. The death of my mom was really devastating. The death of my dad was really devastating too, but in a different way. I always considered my dad my main ally growing up. I'm going to talk to you about my growing up. So this might be long. I might end up editing it down if I find myself blathering too much, but I don't know. I wrote a blog post about having C-PTSD, and most of that was due to the way I grew up. I think my mom had undiagnosed bipolar, at least, if not actual borderline. And I think almost certainly that was due to the way that she was raised. She came from an upper-class family. Her father was a diplomat in the Department of Trade for Chile. And during World War II, Chile was neutral. They traveled quite a lot. She was raised by servants. She had little to no connection with her parents. They spent time in Venezuela. And of course, being an upper crust family, she always went to the best schools. They spent time in Colombia. And they spent time in Nicaragua. And I think they spent a very short period of time in London, but got out just before the Blitz. But I think that was, like I said, a very short period of time. Excuse me. The thing she really hated about traveling like that, not only being disconnected from her extended family, but she talked to me about the girls always making fun of her because she always had the wrong accent. So they treated her like she was some kind of uneducated bumpkin. Especially in Colombia. They were really harsh to her there. And so she was really lonely, and she never trusted people, and she never made friends. And a lot of that got passed down to me. In the sense of she forced a kind of isolation on me. And there were times where she just would arbitrarily not let me go out and play, or not let me hang out with my friend. I'm an introvert, and I don't attach to people easily. I never did. But a lot of that had to do with my very, very, very early childhood upbringing. Now, I've always had the sense that I was an unwanted child, that I was just a hassle and a burden. I wonder if she tried to abort me in some way, that she tried to do something to herself so that she wouldn't have to have me, but that at the same time, it cemented her, that it was like, well, it cements the relationship to my dad, so he'll be less likely to leave, but then now I have 2 kids. You know, she was a city girl. My dad brought her out to the suburbs, and then it became a bit of a problem. And in the suburbs, she was very unhappy because there was no culture, and everything was just boring and drab, and there's nothing to do. And what do I do with myself? All she could do was watch TV. Our house was always spotless. But a lot of that, I think, was just some place to put her nervous energy. Actually, before we were completely in the suburbs, of course, we lived in a couple of apartments where there's an upstairs. And my nursery was upstairs and the living area was downstairs. And there were times, this is where it gets bad for me. How she handled me, once I was weaned, but still in diapers, there were so many times where I needed something. I was hot. My clothes were too small for me. There was an itchy bit of trim on it, or the tags were scratchy, or my diaper needed changing, or they kept putting socks on me and they were either too small or they made my feet too hot. But a lot of the times it was like a diaper change kind of thing. It was pee. And back then it was cloth diapers with the rubber panty over it. And sometimes the elastic on the rubber panty was too tight. And then with the pee in there, it just would hurt. And I would cry. And my mom would get irritated. And she wouldn't come. She would just close the door and turn up the TV. And I would just be left in there. And my brother would be in preschool or something, or, you know, it was just the 2 of us in the apartment, so who would know? And I would cry sadness first, and then I would get so angry. I would just cry in rage and helplessness, just screaming. She'd just turn up the TV even more, drown me out, or even step outside to have her cigarette. I mean, she smoked inside too, but she'd just be like, no, fuck you. I don't want to deal with it. You're a bother. And she'd just wait till I exhausted myself, which I eventually did. So she always won. So there was a learned helplessness there. So what do you do with that? What do you do with that? You can't lean on the one person in the world who is supposed to love you unconditionally. The one person in the whole world who is supposed to love you unconditionally. And then when she finally comes to take care of it, just in time before Dad gets home, you know, and she tries to explain away the violent, horrible, layers deep diaper rash on you. She dumps a bunch of cornstarch on you and explains it away. Oh, she's so sensitive. And it's been so hot. My older brother saw how she treated me. He was a dick to me too. In front of people, he'd hug me. And my dad would take a picture of him hugging me. And my mom would go, oh, he loves his baby sister so much. And then, of course, as soon as nobody was looking, he'd be like pulling my hair, teasing me, or scaring me. And to this day, he claims he has no memory of any of that. I just don't remember. I don't remember. And my dad suspected, I'm sure, but decided not to do anything about it because that was too hard. He was a non-confrontational sort of person. And she was a force to be reckoned with. And then my younger brothers came along. And what ended up happening as they got older, my mom was so smart. She got really good at making the entire family this like political hotbed. She was always whispering secrets to this person's ear and into that person's ear, telling different versions of the truth to different people, creating factions within the family so that when the next blow up came, she'd have allies. People would take sides. Twice, my parents sat us all down and told us they were thinking of getting a divorce. And they said, who would you want to go live with? And I said, Dad, like immediately, no question. Because my mom was so horrid to me, like constantly finding fault with me, with everything. With my brothers could freely go to their friends anytime. I'm heading to this friend's house. Okay. I'm heading to this friend's house. Okay, no problem. Me? No. No, you can't go. Why? You've been seeing them too much. You didn't do your chores right. Your grades have been slipping. I don't like how you sassed me last week. I mean, it was just any reason. Just whatever. Arbitrary. I want to keep you home. It just didn't seem to matter. So I just had a really hard time maintaining friendships. And just because of the way I had been treated already, just as an infant, I had a really hard time attaching. So I could only ever attach to like one person at a time. I never had a circle of friends. Not really. I mean, I tried. I did try. I never wanted to just hang out at home with her. So I just go in my room. If I couldn't go out, I just go in my room, take a nap, read a book. When I was younger, I didn't really have too many books. I wasn't really into books. I didn't have very many toys. I was just bored shitless. I thought my dad was my ally. But then he confided in me, starting when I was around 10 or 11. He'd confide in me things about the marriage, about his first marriage. I became kind of like his counselor. And it was really inappropriate, but I understood things. I was intuitive. I was always very intuitive. And I could reflect upon things because I always had time to reflect. And I guess all the meditating and self-reflection I'd been doing since I was an infant made me deep in a way. So I could relate. So he would confide in me. So it felt close to him in a way, which is why I wanted to go with him. My brothers, just to circle back on that conversation, they all wanted to go with my mom because she didn't rag on them the way that she ragged on me. But my dad unexpectedly shot himself in 1995. He was a type 2 diabetic. He was facing a double amputation of both of his legs below the knee because his circulatory system had just turned to jello, and they had already harvested the main artery from one of his thighs to handle his quintuple bypass that he'd had 2.5 years before. So they couldn't harvest that in order to fix the circulation in his lower leg. That would save the one leg, or both of his legs. I guess they could have fixed both of his legs from that. And when they tried to harvest from the other artery, it was hopelessly clogged. There was nothing that they could do. And they tried to angioplast it, balloon it through, and it was just hopelessly clogged. So they put him on blood thinners to try and increase the circulation. And they were like, walk, we'll give you a walker, and you have to just walk a lot. And it was so painful for him. You know that tingling sensation you get when your feet have fallen asleep and then you stand back up and it's that rush of blood and it's actually stinging. He felt that constantly, but like to the 10th power. So he was in so much pain. And then healing from an amputation is horrible. And diabetics do not heal well because of their circulatory system being so damaged. So one of the things that it's a known fact that once you start cutting up a diabetic, they go downhill pretty fast. And that kind of surgery, it would have been extremely expensive. I mean, it would have been well over $100,000. And it would have been left for my mom to pay. And then he wouldn't have really recovered well. And I mean, within a year or so, he would have been a dead man anyway. So he was looking at all of that and just going, holy fuck. It doesn't make sense. We didn't know he still had a gun. One of my brothers had, quite a few years before, I don't know, 5 or 6 years before, had found the gun, and after a really nasty and evil breakup from his little girlfriend, who was just nasty and spiteful little bitch, she broke up with him just in the most awful way and rubbed it in his face. He was so devastated that he found the gun, and he was really contemplating killing himself. And while he had the gun in his hand, he was shaking, and he called his best friend, and he told his best friend, oh my God, I have the gun in my hand. This is what happened. And I found my dad's gun, and I'm holding the gun, and I'm shaking. And it was like, oh my God, say no more. I'm on my way over. Yeah, so he chose to go, my brother chose to go to a facility for a week to just kind of like hang out and have some counseling and group sessions and just like chill and figure things out. And I think that was the best thing he's ever done. So after that, we thought my dad had gotten rid of the gun, but he hadn't. He just re-hid it in a really good place. Because I guess my dad he thought that it was good to have a gun in the house. I mean, he was ex-army, so he knew how to use it. He was trained on it, stuff. And I guess it's hard to like get rid of a gun and then get another gun. So he shot himself in the garage, and he was really considerate about it. He put a big old lawn trash bag over his head, one of those really thick, heavy-duty ones, so there was no mess. And the thing that I really think about there, how he must have had to still himself, because in spite of the pain, it's still just like, it's still just such a huge decision to like shoot yourself. I'm way too much of a coward. I could not do that. I took a bunch of pills. And I was like, when I tried it, I was kind of like in a manic episode. I'm not a manic depressive. I have anxiety and depression. But I've never been manic. The time that I did it, I'd been taking a lot of psychedelics. And so I was so mixed up. And I took an entire bottle of Nitol. And you can't even get them. You can't even get Nitol anymore. They're way too powerful. It ended up congealing into a single ball in my stomach. Like a ball this size in my stomach. And I couldn't barf it out. I needed Ipecac. Because I tried to make myself throw up and I couldn't do it. But to like, he was like this. My brother, the one who tried to kill himself, is the one who found him. So he had his hand on his belly and one hand here. And he must have really stilled himself and just like gently pulled the trigger. And I thought he was my ally. Like, I'm 54 now. And like, I've looked at this so much and I realized that I didn't have a single ally, really. Not really. And I don't know if I needed one. I mean, I guess it was just all lessons. It's all just lessons to kind of like make me who I am. And I think that's the takeaway. It felt so unjust, all of it felt so unjust. And I was always just deeply inside myself, I was just so enraged all the time. I carried so much anger with me. And I still do. And it's part of my denial about my mom being dead. And I'm going to have to let go of that. I'm going to have to resolve that. I'm going to have to let it go. As I let go of the denial and accept that she's dead, I'm going to have to let go of the anger and let that die with her so that I can become a whole person. Because it doesn't really matter how I felt about any of that. It's just stuff that happened. It's all just stuff that happened. And it doesn't matter. Can't change it, can I? I mean, as part of my belief system, I have certain beliefs about time and looping times and all times happening simultaneously and shifting timelines. Like you can jump from one timeline to another timeline, and like all your selves are happening at the same time. And when I say that, I mean every age that you are and every event in your life that's taken place is taking place simultaneously. And so in that sense, they're all different timelines or event lines, if you will. And I've often thought that you could jump from one to another and then just have it be different, or just decide that it's different. You know, I do feel like you could do that. And I actually think I have done that a few times with certain people and places and events. But in the case of my childhood and my mom, there's just so many. There's just so many. I don't know if it's worth it. I think it's better to just take it in the entirety of its being. Just take it as an entire capsule, as like a simultaneous existence from age 0 to age 18, say, woo! And just go accept, just like click accept. Accept. Click yes, I've read the terms and conditions. Click accept and just close the door on it and have it be done. And in doing that, I can just like release the anger and just let it all go, like a balloon that I'm like untying and just letting go, and just fucking be done with it. You know, I'm tired of holding on to it. You know, it's a lot like that diabetic neuropathy. You know, it's become physically painful to hold on to it. I can feel it in my body. And it's unhealthy and it's not doing me any good. And I can't change it. I've tried so many times to talk to her about it, and never, I am sorry. I am sorry. I think I only ever heard that from her once, and it was so shocking and it was so jarring and surprising. I can't even remember what she said it about. And I was just like, oh my God. It's like I forgot to write it down. I was like so stunned. And it's okay. It is who she was. So like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I holding on to all this? And I'm not an inherently angry person, you know, but it's like when it comes to, or maybe I am. The thing is, it's like it made me an angry person. And and I've not been able to channel this energy into some kind of positive pursuit. But along with the anger came some other gifts. Like I'm exceptionally intuitive. Exceptionally intuitive. And it made me really good at, you know, just being able to look deeply into people and being able to, you know, call them on their bullshit, which they don't like. But I need them to like it. I need people to come to me and to say, please help me. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. That's what I need. I need people to reach out to me for help, because I know that I can look right into them and not play any games and not like whitewash things and be extremely direct. I can use the cards, I can use astrology, or I can just use simple clairvoyant intuition. If you need me to call down angels for protection or other spirits for protection, I can do that too. I don't need to do any of that. I can just look right into you and say, this is what I'm seeing. A lot of people need to be coddled and gentled into it, or if they think that they need that. And the thing is, where we're at in the world right now, there's not a lot of time for that. That's the thing. There's not a lot of time for that anymore. We need to cut out the crap, and we need to get right to the heart of what's happening. We need to clear away the cobwebs. We need to get directly to the problem. Do you want solutions? So, I mean, I feel like that's the primary gift that I've been given through the abuse that I sustained. So maybe that was the point. I have a couple of songs that I'm working on. One of them is a power ballad. I didn't mean it to be a power ballad, but that's what I wrote. The vocals are kind of tricky on it because it's a power ballad. The other one is really cool because it's electropop. And that's really more the direction that I want to be going in. So that's my check-in. I hope you're all well. I hope you had a cool Halloween in spite of COVID. I made us a big old feast. We did a little bit of jack-o'-lantern carving. We put out a sign. We decorated, but we put out a sign that we weren't accepting trick-or-treaters just because we didn't really know how to handle it. And the neighborhood had no trick-or-treaters at all, but several houses did really cool decoration stuff anyway, which I thought was nice. And we put up an ofrenda, and we're keeping that up until Monday. And I went and I got some pan de muerto. I got this other bread that's really cool. Our part of Silicon Valley is just freaking awesome because we have a heavy Hispanic population with grocery stores and eateries that are like totally authentic. And we have a heavy Indian population with eateries and grocery stores that are totally authentic. And we have a heavy Korean population with eaters and grocery stores that are totally authentic. It's really freaking awesome. And then Chinese, like also, and then some Eritrean sprinkled in there too. So it's like super, super multicultural. And I love it. Anyway, I'm going to stop things here. Okay? Peace and love. Mwah.